I want to get a liquor license. Come up here and pick up the packet. Pick up the packet. They fill it out. They send it to Frankfurt. Frankfurt double checks everything. Then they will notify the city. They passed everything, and they know when they come up here, and that's when they pay the city the money for the license, and Megan writes out the license that gets put in all these stores. That's it. The ABC administrator does not go.
Have you read the KLC manual on what it takes in the order?
I know what the other ABC people do.
It's very intense.
And the ABC doesn't write a ticket. If somebody's selling underage, they call the ABC board or they call the police department. The police department gets somebody, or the ABC sends in people underage to try to buy. They're outside in the parking lot. If they come back with the liquor or the beer, they go in there and write them a ticket and give them a court date. That's the ABC administrator. That's pretty much it.
This HB 29 would add to that because there's a verification step of this is the volume of your sales, and here's your fee based on the volume of that sale. So there's some kind of check and balance that takes place.
And they could look. ABC administrator can look at the books if they so desire.
There's one other step in that. So I was heading toward a proposal that I think we're going to, and the proposal would be let's pick some limit of time, get HB 29 running, see what that income level is, and then revisit this X number of months down the road.
I think that 10,000 is fair, and this is the ordinance. It's already been passed. It's an ordinance. You guys can either vote on this, or I can take 10,000 to 15,000. You make the decision. It's already an ordinance.
Can she pay that fee?
You're not passing an ordinance. It's already passed.
Well, we can get rid of the ordinance.
Anything under 20,000, yes, that's a professional decision that I can make.
Does anybody know why Mayor Livingood never got paid for doing that job and he made the
I would like to
ordinance?
see the ordinance, back to Ms. Lowry's question, I'd like to see, I remember there being a range, but I've also looked at a lot of different ordinances with different salaries, such as the gentleman to my left here, and I'm quite sure I'm probably not keeping those straight.
But city council can get rid of a city ordinance, correct?
Very good.
Okay. That's an option.
Are you guys just doing this because you don't like me, or you really believe
It
it?
sure sounds like it. I tell you, this reminds me of what's going on in Washington DC. Nobody can get together and do what's right for the community. I don't understand this.
Well, Micah, if I could address that to everybody, the thing about it is the past mayor of Crittenden did this exact same job. He was the ABC administrator that got no money for doing that
But
job.
that's the past.
4 months ago, 5 months ago. About 5 months ago.
What has Livingood, the past mayor, done that I'm trying to do? Or what has he not done? Clean up the Worthington Trailer Park, infrastructure Oakwood, take the harvesters and put a shelter for the mailboxes, and so on and so on. Every day we have complaints of things that goes on in the city. It's unreal.
The city, you said the city at the mailboxes and harvesters. Is the city going to pay for something about that?
We had talked about that.
We have, but it's not the city's responsibility.
Well, then,
It was
You don't
put
have-
up.
Wait a minute, we're getting off
I
topic.
think I was just saying, maybe Ms. Lowry was going to,
You're right, Paul.
I think it's point of order, let's return to the issue that's officially before council. And yes, as I thought I recalled, was assuming it has not been superseded, and I don't have any reason to think it has. Right, it was a minimum of 10 and a maximum of 15. And this looks like it was back in 16, and I don't know who all was here then, but it would be, right, it set a range, but it needed to be specified.
How do we get rid of the ordinance?
then we don't have an ABC administrator, Paula.
Every city has to have an ABC administrator.
Every
Chuck
city
Bills
has
might
to
do it
have
for,
one.
he does it for the county.
Can we amend the ordinance?
You-
How do we amend it? I guess would be a
Well,
better
there
question.
would be a motion to amend the ordinance. I mean, I don't think you want to, right, and I think amend is probably the correct word, because I don't think you want to repeal it, because as been spoken, you've got to have an ABC, and everybody understands and agrees with that. So procedurally, I would say that the proper way to do it would be to amend this ordinance.
Can we do that today?
You can do it today, but you can't vote on it today, in my opinion, because I would view this as a significant change. You know, if you're dealing with minor technical changes, correcting wording, or maybe you got a date wrong or something along those lines, then typically you can proceed with a second reading. This is a second reading, doesn't say down here, I'm not sure, but at any rate, no, my position would be that would require another reading after tonight, because it would be a significant change if you're changing a pay scale.
It's
Would we
not
need
on
to
the
vote
agenda,
on
it's on the
it?
agenda because it's an ordinance already.
Could we vote on it tonight, or what would be the?
No, Ms. Hubbard, what I'm,
You do not have the floor.
Okay.
Let's settle this right here. If you want to talk, raise your hand. We know it's a witch hunt, go ahead and say it.
all right.
I'm done.
Okay. By point of order.
Well, you have a backbone, Joe. Why don't you
Right.
say what you really want, except for having a public meeting with all your other council members and do what you need to do?
Point of order, I would like to see everyone return to the subject, and the subject being the pay for this position. So, to answer the last question I think I heard on the subject, the pay, it would require, in my opinion, that's a significant enough change that it would require 2 readings with a vote and a second reading. That's my opinion. If it was something, again, more of a textual issue or a typo, then I believe you probably could proceed. But I think if you're changing a pay scale, that would be considered significant.
Okay, can I speak?
Yes.
So what can we do tonight to amend it?
You
Can
would
we do
make-
anything to amend
It's
it
not on the
tonight?
agenda.
I don't think it has to be
Yes,
on
it
the
does.
agenda. Does it
Well, I
have to
guess
be
the
on the
question,
agenda?
I guess the question would be, I mean, item D says ABC administer pay scale vote. I mean, that would, to me, seem to put it on the agenda. If there's a consensus to vote to amend it, then I think, the motion could be made, but it cannot be, the ordinance can't be approved.
Okay, so we
Who's gonna
can,
do, let me ask you guys something, who's gonna do this job for free? Who's gonna do this and take,
Chuck Dills might
take
do it.
responsibility?
Chuck Dills might do it for the county mayor. If he does it for the county, I haven't talked to him, he might do it for the city. The mayor did it before. It's not that hard. In fact,
I'm not trying to be mean, but he didn't do anything.
I'd be willing
This
to,
clerk right
I'd be
here did
willing
the
to do it
job.
for, I'd be willing to do it for free if somebody will pay the bond, the bond has to be paid for somebody to do it.
so I would like to make a motion to amend it if I can be allowed to do that.
It's not on the table.
How do we get done?
I mean, it is listed as old business, and it would seem to me that that would be enough to put on the agenda. If someone wants to make a motion to amend this pay scale, I think they could do that, and it may or may not pass. It may fail for lack of a second. We've had that happen once tonight.
I've got a question. This was passed, approved, and ordered published on March 16th, 2016. From March 2016 to today, what have we paid out to an ABC administrator?
Okay.
Okay.
But we did vote to make Ms. Patton the administrator in our January meeting, I believe.
We did.
And I've been out checking licenses and going into bars and things like that, and making sure they're legit. But you know,
We don't have a list of the people who have paid for their ABC license here in the city building?
yes,
Okay.
if you'd like to know. We can table it and move on if you want.
To revisit where we are, this died for a lack of a second. Your recommendation is that we can amend it here now if we want to, and that's a motion and a vote to amend.
It's not on the agenda.
What happens in the
It's not
interim?
on the agenda.
If that happens, what happens in the
In
interim?
the interim, okay, let me back up a half a step. unless I've lost track again, there's nothing on the table right now. So someone could vote to table this whole issue and not have any more discussion tonight, and then we could bring it off the table at the next meeting.
Can we do that? Because she just made a motion to approve it. Arlene?
Well, she made a motion to approve it, but it failed for lack of a second.
Okay.
Okay. So once that failed, there was nothing on the table. So any related motion could be put on the table, including tabling this issue until a future date. And it would seem, if I could editorialize, it would seem that that may be a proper way to go, because it seems like we're all over the map here in terms of how this should be handled.
Yeah, I have to know, I got training set up June 5th and 6th, it's already.
You can still go to the training, Mayor, to be the
Why
agency
would I want to,
administrator.
Danny?
Okay.
Well, I'll
Doesn't
do
make
it for
any
free.
sense, no.
I'll do it for free.
No, you're not.
I'm
I'll
offering
move
to
to
do it
table
for
it.
free
As
for
I said, it'd be
students.
my advice to council and the mayor to table it at this time, because it seems unlikely to me that there's going to be any sort of consensus reached this evening. And it may allow some time for everybody to relax.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Okay. Does
Don't
anybody,
worry about it, Earlene.
does anybody second Ms. Lowry's?
They have to sleep it now.
Right. Does anyone second Ms. Lowry's motion?
Yes, I'll second.
Is there any further discussion on her motion? And seeing none, I would suggest that the clerk take a roll call vote.
Arlene? No. Todd?
What are my two choices again?
Yes or no?
You?
To take, yes would be to table it,
Yes, we'll table it.
and no would be, I guess, to continue the discussion.
Danny?
Table.
So yes?
Yes.
Screw, that's it.
Joe?
Yes.
Paula? Yes. Jennifer?
Yes.
In new business, we have a resolution 251, 2019 municipal road aid cooperative program agreement. The agreement entered is as of the date of signature below. The Secretary of Transportation Cabinet is made by and between the Commonwealth of Kentucky, Transportation Cabinet, Department of Rural and Municipal Aid Department, and the legislative body of the Incorporated City of Crittenden, Kentucky. Kentucky provides statute provides that 7.7% of revenue resulting from the imposition of motor fuel taxes on taxpayers pursuant to KRS 138-220 and KRS 138-660 and KRS 234-320 shall be set aside by the Finance and Administrative Cabinet for the construction, reconstruction, and maintenance of urban roads and streets for no other purpose than municipal road aid fund.
Resolution is on back.
Incorporated City of Crittenden, a resolution adopting and approving the execution of a municipal aid co-op program contract between the Incorporated City and Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Department of Rural and Municipal Aid for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, as provided in the Kentucky Revised Statute, and accepting all streets referred to therein as being streets which are part of an incorporated city. We just need a vote.
Is this a change from what we have done before? Is there any change, or is it the same thing?
It's the same thing. It's basically you take 3%, they keep it in Frankfurt, where if we have any catastrophes or anything with roads, we can call them and we can get money from them for that.
And is this the one that we revised, that we could check with about helping with the Oakwood project?
Is that what they suggested, or?
Yes, I think John.
Emergency road-
actually said-
emergency road fund.
Is that this?
That would be this, yeah.
Okay.
About the same amount as previous year.
Yes.
Seems like a really big deal.
I make a motion to, whatever we need to do.
Approve.
Yeah. We go.
I'll second the motion. Okay, I'm gonna do a roll call.
You got to do it.
Okay. Joe?
Oh, yes, approved.
Yes. Paula? Yes. Jennifer?
Yes.
Darlene?
Yes.
Todd?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Okay, next order of new business, we have the first reading of ordinance 273, 2019, the annual budget. As you guys have received your packet, if you have questions, feel free to.
Yes, Mayor, you and Megan worked really hard on this, and I want to thank you. I mean, it's 4 pages, but I do have some questions because looking at the different copies that I've had since I've been on council, the numbers do kind of go up and down, and that's the reason why we're having a budget amended. But in your note that you,
Hold up, Danny, this is a proposed budget for 2019, 2020.
oh
This
my
is
gosh, I'm going
next
crazy.
year's. This is next year's budget.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna talk?
Yeah.
You did like it. All right, you did a real good letter on this note, talking about how there's been additions and deletions. So I'm looking at the many copies that we've had, and they're pretty much in the same order, but the numbers come up. And I want to know if there's any way to make it common core for us people to understand, if there's any reason, way we can find out what additions and what areas, and for what deletions, and then raises for the employees in this budget.
Okay, an addition would be the countywide ambulance on page 1.
Did we vote on that already?
This is just the proposal of the budget, and
Oh.
then we have to get that ordinance ready with Chuck Deals.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, I'm sorry, dry ridge, ambulance service.
Megan, we're at on page 1 or page 3?
On page 1, down towards the bottom under appropriations, you'll see countywide ambulance.
Yes, you're awesome, Megan. Thank you. All right. Any things deleted that you can, if there any way we can get a summary for the next time where I won't look silly asking questions about what additions and what the additions were for? And deletions are awesome. I love deletions. Especially if we're saving money.
So you want me just to prepare you something? or-
Well, I figured all the council would want to
No,
see
that's what I
that.
mean. Okay.
But Megan, you're doing a real good job. Don't ever doubt that we don't love what you do, okay? I'll tell my wife I said that.
I had a question about the revenue, on the estimated revenue to the general fund. Yes, we got $25,000 in interest in 2018, but we're not expecting any in our proposed, budget.
Since it's interest, they always tell us, the auditors tell us never to balance or to budget for the interest because you don't know what it's gonna be. And that interest, the 25,000 is off CDs. So we don't see that until the auditors or the bottom line services figures it for the auditor.
I've got a question from page 3 down to the bottom, beautification and equipment purchasers. Do we have an idea of what,
The equipment,
both actually?
the equipment is for gonna have to get new computers, especially the main computer over there for the taxes and everything like that. It's out of date. They told me that once it hits 2020,
No more updates.
there's no more updates for it. And then beautification, that is where we have the money for any landscaping, beautifying the city or anything like that.
And same page, legal services, where it's doubled from last year.
I can answer that. We don't know, we can't predict what we're going to, what our legal services are going to be, if they raise, they're on their resume, if they raise their fees. That's what the reason why we raised that, because we don't know for sure.
Is this a good time to add the 20,000 for council's, attorney in these legal services?
I don't think we should put that in the general fund. I think that should be in a separate appropriation.
Way later to do it.
Budget's tight, what's going on? Do you want to tell the taxpayers that you want, to hire a separate attorney?
No, it's
And
not.
be $20,000 to the taxpayers?
Yeah. Let me address.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I requested that as a new business item to be put on here. We had a lot of dialogue at our last meeting about limitations with the League of Cities. The League of Cities, we had a lot of good dialogue with Pete and the mayor, and we converged, but we didn't get consensus. But one of the things that occurred to me, and Pete confirmed it, is that the council, in certain cases, can hire their attorney in legal services where it's needed. So my proposal is to put a placeholder in the budget for $20,000 in that event, if that event presents itself. Not that we would spend it unless we needed it.
You're not talking about getting one right now, you're talking about in case of emergency break glass.
I'm saying in next year's annual budget, it starts 1st of July, we put a placeholder for $20,000 for council legal services in the event we need it. We don't spend it, and commitment to the taxpayers, we don't spend it if we don't have to. And that's principally being driven, at least from my perspective, on our restrictions for the League of Cities.
I agree with that.
We need that support. But it's a placeholder, that's the key word I want to use. We don't spend it if we don't need it.
This is nothing to do that we don't like our lawyer for the city. This is
Absolutely.
No,
stuff-
absolutely
this is-
not.
We love you, Pete. So you're saying this is
I
to
feel that.
protect,
I feel that.
I love two people today so far. So this is saying in case there's an emergency, if somebody says what you're doing is illegal, you can't do that and somebody comes, and then that's going to protect us in doing our job as city council.
Exactly, because I think we are more at risk today over the last however many weeks or months we've had restrictions on KLC. And this is to get us second opinion, second guidance that we can't get today because of those restrictions.
The only thing I want to add to that is that we all have like a gentleman and ladies agreement that we're not going to go out and contact this lawyer ourselves, that at the meeting, like, okay, now we need to do it.
Well, I think we need to have a discussion about having a go-to person. And I don't know, hopefully we don't have to pay a retainer, couldn't think of the right word, to get that.
You did a good job.
So that's my proposal. Do I need to make a motion or something, or?
I don't know where we're gonna take it in the budget, because if you look at the total estimated revenues, it's $1,016,900, and your total appropriation is $1,006,822. So those numbers.
Take it out of the ABC fund.
I was proposing it be a separate line item, like there's two legal services. One for each, one for person X, if we need it.
You know, you guys can do that. discussed
So
before.
what's the right way to do it from a procedure standpoint?
You're not voting on the budget tonight.
Just like amending the second.
And it may be there. We have funds left over from this past year. And also, if, I have reached out, Megan and I have been working on a grant for Oakwood and with Northern Kentucky Ag, and it's promising that we will get that grant of $125,000.
That'd be nice.
Then absolutely we'll have the money in there for the.
Good job.
For you
You've done
guys.
an awesome job.
The budget can't be approved until the next meeting. So it would have to be at that time approved as is with amendments. I'm not gonna say that you can't make that change tonight, but ultimately it would have to be reapproved, so to speak, at the next meeting, because that's when you're gonna vote on the whole budget. So I would suggest that tonight's the time for discussion, and when we bring this up for a second reading next month, a month straight, then you make, anybody would be free to make whatever motion to amend whatever section of the budget that they would like, and if it's seconded and so forth, then that would be amended, and then we would vote on the budget as amended.
Okay, so you're saying that tonight would be the first reading, and then if we had any suggested changes, we bring that to the next meeting, and we discuss those and vote on those changes?
Well, I mean, this council is gonna vote to approve its budget at the next meeting, period. And I was just trying to think this through, admittedly, on the fly, that in light of the fact that this budget will not be approved until the next meeting, amended or otherwise, that tonight, I think it's certainly appropriate, it's one of the reasons you're here to discuss possible changes, wherever they may be. And that when we come back, someone again would have to make a motion to amend that line item,
Okay.
and any others.
Can we delay until we have time to look at it a little bit more before we, because we've discussed a lot of things tonight, and I would just like to have each of us have time to look at it
You're
and come
talking
back
about-
with our.
You're talking about the things that Megan's gonna get us a list of what additions and what
that,
deletions and explanations.
Yeah, and I've got some thoughts about it already, but I'd like to see those as well.
My only, well, you certainly could, and my only concern there was that it would likely throw us into a special meeting, I would think, before the end of June.
Yeah.
We're running out of months,
Mhm.
or weeks. But obviously, we have special meetings around here, so that can be done.
Don't forget, we can combine meetings. We found out last caucus,
Sure you
that we
can.
can combine meetings.
So could I make a motion then to table this until we have time to look over it and bring back our suggestions to the next? Is
I
that
don't even know if
correct?
you have to table it, because again, we're not voting on it tonight,
Okay.
so I don't think you even have to go that far.
Okay, okay.
Any questions on that?
I was looking at the administrative fees, and it looks like we increased them to $168,000 from $125,000 last year, so that's quite a bit of increased spending. I have the EDC officer,
And code enforcement officer.
The part-time clerk was added, the ABC officer, of course, we don't have to worry about that, and then the code enforcement officer is paid.
but is that not also where some of these expenses that were in checkbook this month, don't they come out of that, or is that strictly salaries?
That is for the amended budget. This is for the new budget going
No, I'm
forward.
talking about our checkbook. So we pay Fort Bank and for the credit cards and some of those things. Does it come out of that administrative?
No, that's
Fee?
public works.
No, administrative is just salary.
It is only salaries? It is only salaries?
Yes.
Okay. All right. It's kind of hard to tell because on the the checking account here, they don't always list, sometimes it says split, so then we can't really tell which
And
account it's coming
When
out
it
of.
splits, that is if I write a check and like say some of it goes for like beautification and some goes for something else, like advertising. So when I put it in, I have to break it down, what goes in for beautification and what goes in for advertisement. It splits it. It says split because it put it in two different places.
But the salary, the checks for yourself and Donna and JD, they say split.
And
so-
that's because the payroll taxes that come out of those, it might be whether it's the federal or the Social Security, Medicare, that's what makes those split.
We'll get it one day, Megan. We'll understand it one day.
Any more questions? As we move on, we have the code enforcement update with Mr. Jeff Long.
Hello. First month, I spent the majority of the time, first week, researching and learning. I reached out to the gentleman that does Gallup County, Union, and Walton. He gave me some good paperwork, some good guidance, and some good information to follow up on how to get the program started and get going in the right direction. Watched several webinars that are published for city officials on the internet to make sure that we had our basic infrastructure and was able to go out and start performing the investigations. From, I want to say we had 27 official complaints that was turned into the city, which led to an additional probably 20 more as you go driving around and start seeing things. The approach that we wanted to take was to just go out and talk with everybody and ask them to comply. The reason we want to take that approach because there's an education issue out there about what we can and what we can't do. There's a lot of information out there to absorb by everybody. I mean, I've lived in the city since '97. I've done some things when I got this job and looked into it, like, oh, we can't do this. There's certain rules and ordinances that have been passed. So the approach was, let's go out and do some education, just talk with everybody, ask if they had any questions, inform them why we were there, and make sure everybody understood it. Those that I spoke with, everybody seemed to be pretty friendly and willing to be compliant. If after the conversation we come back through, following up on another complaint, and we see the same thing, based on the conversation, if somebody said, hey, you know, I'll take care of it, it's not a big deal, then we didn't do anything. If they did not comply, then we sent out we had 11 official notices that got sent out. 9 were for parking violations, 1 was for the grass right across the street over there. The grass is owned by property owners in Colorado, so that's gonna take a little bit, but he has called back and he's looking to get somebody on a weekly basis to cut that particular grass. And then the